university and also working in law. Sitting to the right is Siddharth Dave, who is an advocate for the Supreme Court, and sitting to his right is Dr. Jayanti Datta, who is a very, very, very critical scientist. Let's just before we start discussing this issue, let's all take it. There's a huge amount of experience. You've really been with you were a child psychologist and you really know what really works in these children. So why do you think are such drastic changes coming in the minds of boys specifically? And that is why we are saying this. See, I look at it from the four perspectives. One, the juvenile himself. And second is, of course, the family. Third is the society. And the fourth is the law, the legal system. Now, when you look at the juvenile, again, I would pubertal changes are occurring much earlier than what it used to be earlier. So the menarche starts around 8 or 10 years of age, which earlier was 16, 17. So you have to keep that down. So when the menarche starts, hormonal changes go side by side. Right. So you have to accept that hormonal changes are taking place much before. Now when you look at the juveniles, see the phase is itself a transition phase. The person is going from childhood to the adulthood, and during this phase, a lot of changes take place. Earlier, what used to happen is this juvenile used to be grounded, used to get that support system. Now, today's juveniles, mostly if you look into the metropoles, and my statements are based on the research findings at the postgraduate level, and these are the people who are not rooted from the metropoles. Their root is somewhere else. So there is a culture shock, and they come to the metropoles and they are kind of attracted towards all the glamour and the glory, and media hypes it further. So the child loses, the juvenile loses its censoring capacity, what is right, what is wrong, gets totally attracted to anything which attracts his attention, which is somewhat glamorized. And this unfortunately happens through media mostly. And then there is a clear appreciation. When you do something asocial, antisocial, and again I was talking about from the research studies which we have conducted in the observation homes of Delhi. Any child who is there under the section of 302, I was invited by the other to come see. He is the case who is here for 302. So there is a clear appreciation, which I could not do, this fellow has done. So there is no condemnation. And then the child also is at a loss. The sense of insecurity is so heightened, and the child doesn't have that kind of bonding. And the child is at a loss and doesn't know what to do and loses the sense of control. Second is the family. Family, as she also said, come back to the family part. I'm coming right back to the right from the beginning of anybody's life. And especially nowadays, if you look at it, the dynamics of the family life has undergone a tremendous change. You have nuclear families, both the parents are working, and you have only two kids in the family, and the bonding is not so strong. So the child doesn't know where to relate to. And parents, out of their guilt feeling, instead of giving the time, they buy. So the trust is on the material culture rather than having a one-to-one relationship. Celebration of birthday means take the child out, So the mother doesn't have the time to find out what the child is doing. The third aspect is the society. Earlier, you didn't have to do the policing only by the uniform people. So you had the community people around you. The community policing was more strong. So if anything went wrong in the community, somebody else from your neighborhood would come to know. Now, unfortunately, now this has fallen flat in the metropolis. The legality. Now, the law also has to, realize the changing scenario and do something about it. Now, an adolescent, when by chance commits, most of them, committed out of some kind of a situational force or attraction, and once they commit the act, they find that they can get away with it. Unfortunately, through the research findings, we found that the first-time offenders who were juveniles and lodged into the observation homes, they came out as seasoned offenders. So they already knew what all to be done. So they were groomed by the people in and around. So which is very unfortunate.
That's right, that's right. So I think this is where Siddharth can come in. Tell us as to what this JJ Act is all about, what is this whole people cry, does a change really, does it really want to change or not, or maybe implementation should be enough?
Well, of course, the JJ Act is an improvement on the last act in the sense that it now provides for many more sort of remedial measures for the
Definitely. I think you have to lower the age, keep in view that the pivotal changes are occurring much before, at least reduce it to 15. And you must keep in view the kind of offense committed. And you know, we talk about the punishment and reinforcement, the message has to be sent across that if you indulge in this kind of a barbaric act or this kind of violent offense, obviously the penalization could be very, very harsh, because if you don't do it, then you are sending a message across that if you're juvenile, you can still get away with doing anything of this kind. So there's no deterrent as such. Yes, you have to put across a deterrent. And what I understand of the criminal psyche, again based on my research, that is they understand very, very thoroughly when you declare a very small terminology that this is the punishment. Everybody understands if I murder somebody, I might be hanged. So if you say that if there is a violence like this and you have raped, your age will not be considered. You will be pardoned. So that is the message the society should really give, because what he is doing is not only a violence act, he is depriving the other person from his from her own life. You see, very many of these kids, when they come to us for therapy, and we give them crisis intervention after the rape, and you know, the younger the child, the more difficult for the child it is to face the day-to-day routine and grow up.
Right. I think at this point I would like to mention that this boy, now who we are talking about, this juvenile, maybe he himself has, life has not really been very kind to him, and maybe that is the revenge that now he's taking the moment he gets a chance.
Absolutely right, because if you have lost your childhood in the corridors of these pavements, you know, you have been sodomized, you've been exploited, which came out in the papers also that he had lost some of his money from this man who he was traveling, some 18,000 or 8,000 which was due to him, which he was not getting. So it is kind of a displacement act, you know. You have that violence, you have that anger, you have that frustration for somebody, and when you get a chance, you get a vulnerable candidate, you take it out, you displace that whole frustration, the anger, the anguish, everything on that. To deter this, there is only one scope. Yes, reformatory activities should be given to the younger children. That should be, you know, I think strictly followed up, and the regime should be maintained in the observation homes. But for these kind of people, I don't think reformative is going to work, because if you look at the newspaper, there was somebody who had killed a 9-year-old child long back, and he went to jail. The minute he was released, he did the same thing again. He raped a 9-year-old child and he killed her again. This was in the newspaper. I think day before yesterday. I'm talking about.
So, Bhavani, do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, I just want to add 2 things.
One of the steps. And I don't believe, as I said, punishment is indeed the most important component. I don't believe just gender sensitization is the solution. Along with this, you have to look into the school curriculum. The children are pressurized at the school front, at the home front. And very often they are provided with one computer or a laptop, and at the press of a button, the child can visit any site anywhere and get a wrong message. You know, so the bonding in the family, especially with the loss of these extended family members who used to, you know, like a superego monitor, what you are doing, where you are going, here, why. So that has to be looked into, and I think the schools have to really take on this task, not just gender sensitization, but also use the psychological interventions. You know, we have tests, we can do the psychodiagnostic tests, and we can find out whether the child is having criminal propensity. Suppose the child is already indulging in small bit of offences, and you find that the child is having criminal propensity, you certainly can give an intervention at the right time, with the right trust, and which is not possible if you don't have really a deep psychological background. So you have to have a psychologist attached to the school who's equipped to do these psychodiagnostic tests and give the interventions.
That's right. And I think the media also somewhere needs to play a little more proactive role. Like if you go abroad, you will see the visuals like what does it mean when a girl really says no, that it has to be no. But over here, there are no messages like that in the media at all. So if we started showing something like that, then maybe things again could change, because this is one medium that whether children, adults, everybody has access to. What do you say about that?
Yeah, of course, media can play a huge role because today exposure of the
Marketed as a consumer item, item numbers and things like that. So anyone with a little lax censure.
And do you think also maybe it's time for the Indian film industry also to do a rethink on this, like not to really glamorize and glorify in-thinking the way they do. So that
James Bond as a woman.
You have to take the cognizance that the woman is not really a consumer item. That's what they are marketing all along, and they just concentrate on their TRP, forgetting that what message. Media is a very strong component, and it gives the wrong message, wrong information to the child, and the child incorporates this and doesn't know where to stop.
Now, Siddharth, I would want you to tell us a little bit about molestation and offense. What does the law really mean?
You have to understand that. It needs a different skill set. It needs a different kind of a professional acumen, which probably clinical psychologists are equipped to. Unfortunately, we don't have a clinical psychologist either with the police department or with the juvenile justice board, which is the mandate, which should be a mandate, because when juvenile
Sounds like a joke that
There is also
special without clinical psychology.
there is also special juvenile police unit that has to be implemented in every district of every state. And I think that is not functioning, that is not being implemented. So the implementation is a huge concern and a huge issue for the juveniles. When you are talking about, same as for
You find girls in traffic, you have the same problem. Whereas the infrastructure that you are supposed to provide to prevent all this, it's all very well to say that only offenses we have.
Also, this act is meant for what we should actively provide that
needs to be central oriented. And unfortunately, in Delhi, headquarters doesn't have a clinical psychologist. Whereas to understand
To get clinical psychologists, we don't have women in those wickets or those thanas, where the women can actually go and complain.
you have to understand how to handle it.
there should be proper training also. There should be proper training for the professionals to handle all this.
Absolutely. And we don't even have enough police force.
That's right.
Huge sexual harassment in the police.
Itself.
The constable,
The women constables are sexually harassed. Yeah.
The large scale basis by superior officer. And it is done, for a simple example, depends on where you will be posted. Okay? So all like this place is close to your house, you will not oblige me, I'll post you say
Some in the back to open. No, so then finally, God forbid if there's a girl who really faces a situation like that, what is
Known that there should be a different cell altogether for handling these kind of cases, and there should be hotlines, whether you are from the rural belt or from the urban sector, whether you've been able to inform, as he rightly said, you should take the family into confidence. But if you have been raped or you've been subjected to this kind of a violent act, you should have an access to the law enforcing agencies, and they should be available on a hotline basis, and one should really clear them up, find out if they are falling short anywhere. So whether you are in the uniform or not in the uniform, you should be subjected to the punishment.
so Siddharth, what are going to be your final words?
before the government changes law, please consult all the stakeholders. Don't come up with something or think that you are only empowered to do that. Consult
The corporate sector, right?
Well, I think on this note, we have to call it a day. So thank you so much for joining me today for this and really discussing this topic. Thank you. Well, friends, the point is clear, and that is that there has